Holding the line against the enemy charge, braced with shields and fierce with primordial determination. So we're going to find out if the primordial ferocity of the dinosaurs is going to be able to take on the bestial fury of the Beastmen. So in today's Tale of the Tape, we have a showdown between the Beastmen, who are going to be led by Morker the Shadowgave. Sorry, that pun was so goddamn terrible. But anyways, it's going to be Morker the Shadowgave facing off against Krokar. Yeah, it's going to be Krokar atop his mighty steed. Looks like it's going to be Grimlock. And, you know, I actually was wondering, I mean, Grimlock, yes, throughout the battles does eat a lot of things, right? He's going to be tossing things up and feasting. If Grimlock were to, like, eat a Beastman or, like, a Chaos Spawn, for example, or, you know, take a bite out of them, wouldn't that be, like, corrupting him or kind of, like, screwing him up a little bit? I guess, you know, the Lizardmen, this guy literally has, like, a plasma gauntlet on his hand, so they probably had the some sort of technology or magical ward imposed by the Great Slann to prevent that. But anyways, as far as the build goes, in the front line, it's going to be a primary core of the Bestigor herds, which are very good in this matchup. Bestigors, of course, have 95 armor, and that's going to make it very tough for, you know, the skink cohorts, as well as standard swords to do a lot of damage to them. On top of that, they have massive armor piercing, a beautiful charge bonus of 35, which is, you know, pretty substantial for infantry. So when they get in there, they do a ton of damage to the Bestigors, or excuse me, to the Saurus warriors and the skinks, and I'm pretty sure that they would trade efficiently with Temple Guard. I don't know who would win in a head-to-head matchup. I mean, yes, the Bestigors would get the advantage initially and do a ton of burst damage, but of course the Temple Guard do have much better defensive stats and melee defense, so maybe over the course of a long fight, Temple Guard might be able to pull that out. But yeah, Bestigor is very, very efficient here. But they are very susceptible to being run over by big dinosaurs. So if there are Bastillodons and Stegodons and things like that, it can get a little bit messy for them. But yeah, I think they're a safe pick. We do have Morker the Shadowgave here on the ground. He's going to be summoning Chaos Spawn. He's pretty much one of the more safe choices in the Beastmen roster. I mean, getting, you know, almost 2,000 gold worth of units, and it's not quite 2,000 gold because they do disappear on their own, being summoned units, but it's still just so much value. And he's really tough to kill, and, you know, Krokar and some of the big dinos are just masters at killing enemy lords and characters, so it's pretty nice to have someone who's just safe, durable, heals himself, and, you know, well, I don't know, he probably wouldn't do evil cackling. Yeah, he's not that type of guy. But we got the Butchers of Kalkengard here, 2 Minotaurs in total, each of which is going to have shields. Now, the great weapons are quite good in this matchup. Oh, I think I actually forgot to bring the shielded variant. I thought they were, but these were supposed to be the shielded variant. Mistake on my part. But anyways, the shields are very good in this matchup because skink cohorts with their javelins, you have chameleons with their little, you know, blow darts, whatever they have. Yeah, I think it's like a blow dart. But yeah, the shields are very valuable. But nonetheless, the Minotaur is going to be pretty good at just kind of pounding out the big dinosaurs, especially going after Bastillodons and Stegodons and the dinosaurs that don't have a bonus for large. They're mobile, they hit hard. Just going to be trying them out. I think that the Butchers of Kalkengard are definitely a safe pick, but the other ones going to be a little bit scarier now that I realize they don't have shields. But nonetheless, if they are able to just attack standard Saurus or even beat down skink cohorts or chase after some of the Bastillodons, I think they're going to be good. And yeah, they have 110 weapon strength with really good armor piercing. So yes, Krokar will give them the business, but the business will be given right back. On top of that, we do have a Brace Shaman with the Lore of Beasts, which I think is very good in this matchup. The Manticore summon I think is crucial because most of the dinosaur players are going to have a Skink Chief up in the skies, or maybe you know, a Skink Priest with the Lore of Heavens, which yeah, it looks like that's going to be him over here. So summoning up a Manticore just to chase him and pressure him, and if the Manticore can catch the Skink Chief or the Skink Priest, they can do a ton of damage and probably defeat him. So having those Manticore summons, which you get 2 of, is very good. It only costs 14 wins of magic. Flock of Doom also quite good against blobs of infantry. And on the flanks, we got Gore Herds with shields. And yeah, Gorebull in the back. So Big Daddy Gorebull's ready for some ping pong. Hopefully you guys are too. And on the far side, 2 groups of Centaurs just to chase down skinks. But my opponent has a pretty cool build. It looks like he does have 2 of the Bastillodons with the Solar Engines, which I think if they do have a niche, it's going to be this matchup, or in a matchup like this, where your opponent has mostly a lightly armored roster. Of course, they do have pretty big missile damage, but the problem being with their missile damage is that their armor piercing is quite low. So if they're shooting heavily armored targets, it's not really going to put much of a dent. But against the Beastmen, there's a lot of good targets. There's Centaurs, there's Gore Herds, there's Minotaurs back here who are also quite juicy targets with their 35 armor. So we'll see how these boys do. Front line's going to be Javelins. In the back, he's got Saurus Warriors, Skink Priest with Heavens up in the sky with Wind Blast and Curse of the Midnight Wind. Big old Krokar to fight Minotaurs and the big targets that the Beastmen do have. Saurus Spears on the flanks, and also 3 groups of the Chameleon Skinks, who, it's kind of weird that they have like 68 models. I bet CA was like, let's make it 68 just so it's not 69, and that's not going to be a comment in all the commentaries here. But anyways, guys, it is time. Let's see how this battle goes. So the Bestigors are going to be pushing forward, getting ready to charge into the Skinks. The Skinks are going to get some decent Overwatch fire, and it looks like the Chameleons of my opponent are going to be screening outwards just to deal with the Centaurs. Yes, my Centaurs could do good here, but 3 Chameleon Skinks can definitely take them apart. And so far, he's getting some pretty good value, kind of poking down Centaurs, having killed 7 models. And Big Daddy Krokar is going to be coming in for a freebie because my Minotaurs were charging right up the pipe over here. So a little bit out of position as this giant T-Rex is just going to be ravaging into my front line. And yeah, I mean, yes, he's an anti-large tool, but he's got that fat tail whip. Oh, look at that tail whip. Just taking out 3 or 4 Bestigors right there. Definitely not fun. Yeah, that actually did quite a bit of damage. I could have sworn I saw more than just one Bestigor die in that like tail whip there. But yeah, now they're starting to go down pretty bad. And it looks like they do lose their orders because Krokar does screw up their charge a little bit. But the other Bestigors are just going to annihilate these skink cohorts. It is just going to be pure slaughter. So he stood to get the javelin throws, but obviously not getting the charge isn't going to be terribly punishing for the skinks. They only have a charge bonus of like, yeah, 10 or something. So the Bestigor is cleaving the front line. And now the Minotaurs and the other troops are going to be going after Krokar, who did pull back. So a little bit out of position. So I decided to just pile into these guys. I'm like, screw it. Let's just start beating on the skink cohorts here. So the Minotaur is definitely having a good time, and the Bestigors will be getting re-engaged in just a moment. In the meantime, I did summon a Feral Manticore. Manticore is going to be chasing down the Skink Priests with Heavens, and I did try and attack with my Centaurs back here, but my opponent had a really good play, pulling back Krokar real quick, getting a nice little terror route and forcing me back. But I do have some pressure. Some of these Bestigors did break through. They're going to be chasing back here, and with their armor, they should be pretty durable against the Skinks. Manticore is going to be continuing to chase down the Skink Priest, but I think he got like poisoned or rampaged or something, and the other Centaurs are going to be pulling back up and around and trying to sandwich these guys. But the mainline fight's going pretty well. The Bestigors, of course, just making mincemeat of most of these troops, doing a ton of damage against the Saurus, as well as these Skinks they were fighting, so far so good. Really good value. These bad boys are up to 76 kills, so they essentially butchered a group of Skink cohorts, then they moved on a moment later, charged a group of Saurus warriors with shields, and they've almost taken them down to half HP, so really a testament to how good the Bestigors are in the front line of this matchup. On the flanks, I have a couple Goreherds with shields, and I wanted to have standard Goreherds with shields simply to kind of take missile fire. A lot of times, people will skirmish on the flanks, right? You're going to have your outside units being harassed by archers and missile cav and things like that. So having the Goreherds with shields there, I think, was a good choice. And they're actually quite powerful in melee. They do have 31, 35, and their weapon strength, of course, is a little bit lower due to poison. Now, there is going to be a second Manticore being summoned right here, and the Beastmen often do pull ahead in terms of the bounce of power simply because of all their summons, even though it's not like a true representation of the battle, but a slight bounce of power advantage when I do some of that second Manticore, and right now I'm just going to be using him to go after the Bastiladon. So this Manticore, it's going to take a long time. Manticores don't have the best armor piercing against the thick hide here of the Bastiladon. You can see he does claw and barely do any damage, but it's going to shut this thing down from firing, and if this thing isn't generating value for my opponent, I'm going to be able to run rampant with some of my other troops here, and the Minotaurs and all those goodies. The Butchers of Kalkengard have taken some damage from the Skink cohorts with javelins. Right here we do have a pretty good little surround. The Gorebull is going to be karate chopping this Bastiladon, so we did break through the front line pretty aggressively there. And if you look, my opponent doing some pretty good kiting here with the Skink Priest. I've just been hunting it, but for some reason the attack orders, I don't think they were getting dropped on my Manticore, but I must have been doing something that was causing that because they kept just standing still, and it was very, very strange. But Hand of the Gods going down, blasting into the formation. I think it was going after Morker, the Shadow Gave, or the Gorebull, and I think it actually clipped the back of the Minotaurs and killed a couple models and did some good damage, but I'd rather have it on the Minotaurs there. But anyways, but yeah, this Bastiladon can't really run. They do have 45 speed, but Minotaurs are quite a bit faster in the 50s. So Big Daddy Gorebull doing a great job, and the Bestigors here still racking up the kills. 96 on them. Morker, the Shadow Gave, with his Pimp Claw just kind of in there doing his thing. And you know what's really nice about having Morker mixed in the front line is he does, of course, cause poison. Now, in the meantime, my opponent is going to be kind of creating a new little bastion over here. So the Skinks have been getting hunted down very efficiently by my Centaurs, so I was able to crowd those guys, get them in a bad position. But Krokar is going to be pulling over here now, just fighting some Bestigors. He does have them isolated, and I don't have too many elements nearby, but here comes the Mino train. You can see in the distance, the Minotaurs, led by the Big Daddy Gorebull, are going to be charging in. And that is going to be a pretty scary moment here for Krokar, as he's, yeah, he definitely just ate that guy, right? He definitely ate that guy in the eye, so I don't know. We'll have to see. But he's going to be dropping the Atomic Teabag here onto the Bestigor herds, doing a pretty good job. But the Gorebull coming in, Butchers of Kalkengard going in as well. And I decided to send these very beat up Minotaurs, who I figured just that one Minotaur got just taken out by that hero skink on top of this Bastiladon. And the Manticore is doing a really good job. So as far as summons go, I have Chaos Spawn here. I have 2 Manticores active on the battlefield. I think the second one is actually getting really close to dissipating. So that's one of the main reasons why I am very far ahead on the bounce power. Granted, I still think I would be ahead on the bounce even without them, but it definitely brings a lot to the battlefield. So one of the big strengths of the Beastmen, definitely their summons. So the Butchers of Kalkengard are going to be piling in here. But a very nice swiftness of Itzel here is going to be knocking back a lot of my Bestigors. And it looks like Krokar might be able to slip away. He's very swift on this guy when he does pop all those buffs. And oh, look at that. Just a massive knockover on the Gorebull, which is something we're very used to seeing. And look at this little Skink Chief trying to do the jukes on the Feral Manticore. But like I said, I think Feral Manticore is very good in this matchup. They're good at chasing down the Skinks. The skink characters, I should say. And also on top of that, there's like a big dinosaur, and still 400 plus weapon strength, even if it has relatively low armor piercing values, is still very important in these big monster fights. So in the main fight, it looks like it's mostly a cleanup. The Goreherds and the Bestigors and the Bray Shaman plus Morker, the Shadow Gave, were able to clean up the front line. Some of the Saurus and Skinks are going to be coming back here. And you can see the Feral Manticore, over the course of this long fight, I mean, he was eventually able to chew through the armor of the Bastiladon. And this was a straight up 1v1 fight. So it just goes to show that the Manticore summons can really generate a lot of value. That one summon essentially took the pressure off for like half the game. I mean, had this Bastiladon been sitting and shooting at either my Centaurs or my Minotaurs. I mean, the Butchers of Kalkengard, instead of being at 11 models, could be almost dead. So we were able to get that guy off. Very good play here from the Feral Manticore. Solid micro on his part. And over here on the ground, we do, of course, have the Centaurs and some of these Vestigor herds on the flanks, finishing off the last vestiges of the Saurus Warriors. That's going to be all she wrote in the distance, as Big Daddy Krokar is fully surrounded by the Minotaurs. I'm pretty good at giving chase there, and the Manticore is able to chase off the caster. So very well played to my opponent. It was definitely a fun game, relatively quick, but a cool build for sure. I think that the Solar Engines do have some potential. Maybe if they were a little bit more offset from the army, like kept far away with some skink cohorts protecting them, they could have done a little bit better. Like, what you could have done is maybe had one Bastiladon like offset and have a skink cohort plus one chameleon with each one in like corners. It would have kind of pulled my army apart a little bit, because I think the fact that they were so concentrated in the middle, and my Bestigor line just pounded through the front line of the Source. I mean, just straight up gave them the business, and that's what makes Bestigor so good in that matchup. And of course, with Morker in the front line, it's a tough cookie to crack. I mean, the Beastmen or the Lizardmen have a number of ways of doing it, but yeah, I think Morker is definitely solid. And the Manticore summons, getting those two Manticores #1 to shut down the Skink Priest made it much tougher for him to get those good wind blasts, because he couldn't really get in position as easily. He constantly had to be getting microed, and on top of that, getting the other Feral Manticore to shut down the Bastiladon for pretty much like 3 to 4 minutes of that game. I think was very, very substantial. And yeah, GOREBULL got ping pongs. Minotaurs did okay. The one thing I would probably cut, honestly, I don't think you need the second group of Minotaurs. I just wanted to do a Minotaur build for you guys and have some fun with it. But if in a more competitive, like tournament kind of environment, I think you would probably cut the Minotaur. And I mean, yeah, the Butchers of Kalkengard are just a good unit in general. Their stats are insane, but you could cut these guys. I don't know, maybe some Poison Warhounds could be pretty good for like chasing the Skinks a little bit earlier, locking down Krokar with some poison. I'd have to think about that. But yeah, the Bestigors are really good, and maybe even mixing in some Centaurs with throwing axes. Yeah, probably cut this Minotaur, you cut one of these Gore herds, and then you just get 2 Centaurs with throwing axes, and then suddenly I think you have a much more competitive build. But anyways, very well played to my opponent, the Sword of the Morning. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Beastmen vs. Dinosaur game, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.